Welcome back to another video where I'll be shooting some 1977 expired Kodak Tri-X film. This is black and white medium format film. You might notice I've shot 2 videos using Tri-X already. I just like to mess around with it, I guess. I have a bunch. I got just a lot of cheap Tri-X, so there's not really much harm in trying it out at least. This is 1977 expired, so this is not as old as my video at the Grand Canyon, but all the while, it's still pretty damn old, 1977. In any case, I got it from a different lot compared to my old film that I used at the Grand Canyon, so I had different expectations perhaps. Not only that, but I am developing my own black and white film now. It's a start. I'm hoping to get into color soon, but in any case, it kind of helps speed up the whole process of experimenting and really makes it cheaper, in fact. Now, I'd already experimented with one roll from this lot of 1977 expired film, and this one was outside of the wrapper, probably for 40 plus years outside of the wrapper, so unprotected, and it came back like literally moldy, if you can see from the edges along the film here. Kind of a shame, but otherwise it showed some promise when it came to just latitude as well as contrast and really just how muddy the shadows were. I shot this roll at ISO 100, which is 2 stops less than the box speed of 400. I developed it in D76 at 400 though, so it's one of those things where you could take it to the lab and just have it developed at box speed like usual, so there wasn't much of a difference here. And as for where I shot it, I actually shot it in my hometown of Paradise, which many of you might know of. It's a town that burnt down 2 years ago. It's still pretty much in a not so great condition. It's a city in the process of rebuilding. I was on my grandpa's property in Paradise, just pretty much loading up dead wood that had been cut down. And I just had my Hasselblad and the Tri-X with me. I decided, if I felt like shooting afterward, maybe I would just drive around town for a little bit, experiment, and just see, I guess, what might inspire me or what might just motivate me to shoot for the day. My first subject for the day was pretty close down the road from my grandpa's. It is just a typical site in Paradise. You have what would look like a property someone once lived on. It obviously is, but you don't see a home there. You see a just empty patch of dirt. That's something you see everywhere in town because you just have a lot of people who lost their homes, like myself, and you don't have plans to rebuild in town. So you're left with pretty much like a garden, the front yard, backyard, and then, yeah, just this plot of dirt here where your house was. After shooting the empty plot, I came across this empty lot where you had a trailer that someone most likely lived in after the fire. Now, a lot of people in town still live in trailers while they wait on their next move, whether it be moving out of the area or as their house is rebuilt. The next spot that I went to is a pretty common sight in town. Along with these empty driveways, empty yards where a house once was, you also have the pretty common mailbox. Now the mailbox, a lot of time they're the community ones, so they're all stacked in a row. And a lot of time at this point, they're pretty much just left and abandoned since the 2 years of the fire. And it's kind of a sad sight because you can see this whole row of mailboxes. People used to live there, get their mail there every day, and now they're gone. And I think over the past couple of years, you can see them also just start to decay, start to get beat up for whatever reason, whether it be vandals or it be just construction crews going through. My next subject was one of the most interesting subjects to me in my mind. It kind of best represents just what was lost in Paradise the day of the fire. Now this is the Old Town Plaza, where it was pretty much a strip mall. We had 2 grocery stores, a couple of two pizza joints. I mean, you had quite a few businesses. So it wasn't a huge town, so a lot of the businesses were concentrated in the couple shopping plazas. So this was one of the big ones. This is the one I went to every day for groceries or for whatever, get my crappy haircuts. And it was one of the few that really got completely leveled. I've shot here a few times in the past. I kind of always just come back here every once in a while, really just to capture the evolution of this plot. I really don't know if they have any plans to rebuild on this plot. It's pretty much just been left just vacant for the past 2 years, and since they cleared away all the rubble from the lot. You can still see some of the remnants though. You can see that it was a shopping center. You can see just how the trees are burnt and scarred. You can see just what the heat did that day. It's just an interesting place to be if you're trying to capture the town. Now the one spot that really caught my eye this time around was this fire hydrant. I'd never really noticed it much before. It was out in front of the pizza joint in town, one of the pizza joints. We had like 5 pizza joints. And you can see that's a fire hydrant for when the cap's removed. Now, I don't know how it was removed or when, but I would suspect perhaps that this was removed the day of the fire, perhaps an attempt to stop the fire here at this plaza. I don't know for certain, but even if they did have a fire crew there trying to stop it, and there wasn't many fire crews that day to try and stop this absolute firestorm, but if they did, the water did go out pretty early on. That's kind of what doomed my house to burning, was the water going out to stop the fire. And it's just interesting because if that's the case, then you can see this hydrant has been left the way it is with the cap off for 2 years now, and you can see the area around is a little scorched too. It's just a subject I thought worth capturing. As I was heading out the shopping area, I wanted to capture just how you have this intact parking lot for nothing, for nowhere. And one of the tricks I try and use often, it's a common photography trip, is just to bring a ladder with you of any size to get a gained elevation here. On my way out of town, I did decide to shoot a couple business signs. Just like the mailboxes is a common sign in Paradise, where you have what was once a business and you have a dirt plot of land there, no building, and then you have the advertisement or the sign still. So here, this was a vinyl sign, and the heat from the fire of the nearby building melted the sign, and it's still standing the way it was, sagging from the day of. know, obviously the grain is pretty high, as well as just the muddy shadows. And really, you see some splotches throughout, especially in the sky. But it's one of those things where I enjoy shooting it. It's a very cheap way of me to shoot. And it's also a way that I can just kind of go out around town and experiment and try and grow as a photographer. Not only that, but just capture, I guess, my perspective in this whole experience in the town of Paradise.